Good afternoon and good evening to everyone from wherever you're joining us. And welcome to our webinar series, Experts Speak, in association with IABSC, the International Association for Business Analytics Certification. And let us start today by giving you a brief introduction about the speaker for today, Mr. Karl Smith. Karl is the founder of social media platforms like Me Social and All Me, and he has over 25 years of experience helping global organizations transform the way they design, build, and deliver services, while also partnering with banks, governments, universities, and Fortune 500 companies to turn complexity into clarity. And today he'll be covering the topic on AI effectiveness and human eminence. And just a request to all the participants, please post your questions in the Q&A section, and we will present it to the speaker at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Carl.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to share my musings or my experience. I do have a short presentation. I don't want to focus too heavily on the presentation because actually it's the ideas behind the images that are important rather than the images themselves. My background in AI goes back to around 2001. And realistically, if you know what AI is, it probably goes back to the first time I ever coded anything, which was back in the 1980s, looking at how we can augment human existence. And that's what I see computers doing rather than taking over from them. However, like everyone else on the planet, I am aware that there are some issues with how we're utilizing technologies and specifically AI, which is why I put this image together. So hopefully no one's having a heart attack about now. But there is this sense that AI is crushing humanity up against the business need for profit. And actually, it doesn't have to. There does need to be a rebalancing, I think, in how people operate, how they expect to work, and also what work should be. There's a great deal of work that's been carried over from the last century that frankly has never needed to be done by humans and should always have been done by machines. Just like we realized during COVID, we didn't need to go to shops, but we could buy everything online. Although someone like me had been banging on about using e-commerce for 20 years, no one actually listened until there was a situation where they couldn't go to a shop. Same way AI is dramatically changing a lot of entry-level work. And so instead of fighting that, we need to make sure that we give young people a different entry point than doing manual tasks and give them over to the skill sets that they really have as humans, which is innovation and invention. I just want to bear in mind what artificial intelligence actually is, because there's a lot of misleading information out there at the moment, just because everyone wants investors, and I get that that's a human drive to say what we're now doing is AI. But actually, there's a lot of systems that are currently being purported to be AI, which are not. So let's start at the beginning. Artificial intelligence is a field of creating systems that can perceive, reason, learn, and act with a degree of autonomy. They themselves can do that. Even at a finer level of the programming, they can respond through data matching or through pattern analysis and change what their actions are. If the system you're working on doesn't do that, it's not AI. It may well mimic AI, and there's a lot of that that's happened, and a lot of unfortunate people have been taken to the cleaners on investments for things that are not AI. Always go back to what does it do and what problem does it solve? And this is where I come into AI in my experience. I'm looking to solve actual problems, not find an AI and then look for a use for it, which is what I think a lot of the scrabbling around at the moment is focused on. I do want to go back to where AI comes from, and AI is not new. It's very, very old. It's older than I am, and I feel quite old. For the Star Wars fans, you'll know what the first sentence means. For everyone else, the key thing is AI is 75 years old, or well, 76 if you want to conclude this year is over, but at least 75 years old. It's very, very old as a thing. What has changed is access. And what we need to be aware of as engineers and as architects and as professionals working to solve problems is that there is now this sense that everything can be done by AI and it can't. Just like in the past, everything can't be done by software. I really don't want to get my hair cut by a piece of software. I really don't want to be driven by a piece of software, and I can go into that later if people are interested. Given the recent announcements by Tesla where they're dumping their self-driving cars, when in fact other people have solved that problem because they looked at it a different way. So what are the AIs I'm talking about? So these are the main AIs, and there's a lot of them, and I probably missed some out. And for the engineers on the call, I did look at who was attending. There does seem to be quite a few engineers. I can't do what you do. I am not the at the coalface solutions person. I'm at the enterprise level. How does this interface with the vision of the organization? How does this fit the outcomes we're trying to achieve? How can we deliver the data systems necessary to underwrite these AIs? How will we conform to regulatory compliance and governance? That's where I sit in this model of delivering AI. So I won't be going into the actual functionality at a macro at a micro level of how these things actually work, because actually there's people on this call that probably know better than me. Never set yourself up for a fall. So I've called out a number of systems here as solutions. The first one is expert systems, machine learning, probabilistic and statistical AI. I always think of that as Bayesian networks. I can't stop myself because I've used Bayesian networks. Evolutionary and bio-inspired AI, fuzzy systems, or again, I tend to focus on the logic models. Hybrid AI, where you're intermixing a number of AIs, embodied and robotics AI, deep learning, which I'd love to get into. It fascinates me, but I've never had a client willing to pay for me to do to solve a problem with it. Natural language processing and large language models. Now, I've starred the ones that I've actually worked on or utilized. So if I can move this out of the way of my notes. My expert systems solution related to utilities management, and this was back in 2005. As I said, AI is very old. And the thing that we were trying to understand was how we could codify processes around utilities management and utilities troubleshooting. And what we did was we took a whole series of data around the problems and process solving that was done to fix water supply issues, electrical supply issues, and we codified them. And then we made them available to an expert system that could be responsive to new queries around problems and therefore offer solutions to engineers. Now, in some ways, it does dumb down engineers because they don't then need to know everything. This is field engineers, but at the same time, it also lifts a lot of people away from hidden knowledge and really does aid people. The machine learning piece that I worked on was actually to do with anti-money laundering in financial services, and actually was looking at pattern analysis. Although later I did actually do some training around IBM Watson's, which is an amazing IA system. Pattern analysis has been around for hundreds of years. We've always used it. And in this instance, we were dabbling with how can we track unusual trading actions within complex systems where you're dealing with essentially financial instruments. And we utilized an AI logic model for machine learning to resolve where these transactions were coming from, and also to look at trading platform activity to ensure that insider trading and certainly offsetting risk was managed effectively, or hedging. So that was around 2006, 2008. Probabilistic and statistical AI was something to do with Bayesian networks I was involved with in 2015. It was with a company based in Australia who were looking to commercialize what had been until that point a decision engine around the Five Eyes program, which is a military intelligence system. And what this was looking at was how the system could draw data from other sources other than military systems to perhaps predict the likelihood of someone making a claim on insurance, or how they might be considered to be a good risk for a mortgage. And actually just looking at other ways. We did actually look at it also as a way to predict the next US president. And we did actually get that right as Trump. So it's a very interesting way of utilizing an AI. I do have diagrams of how that works if people are interested. Fuzzy systems, that was actually for a very well-known UK, what's it called, property engine. And what they were looking at was the problem they had was that a lot of data was available on properties in the UK that were for sale that was conflicting, and it was very hard to work out if they were all the same property or not in a given area. And actually, that was because estate agents were specifically hiding certain data points. And what we did was we utilized a fuzzy logic system to uh, uniquely identify properties and then make them available for the estate agents to then be on that platform where they could actually say they can advertise it. Very interesting idea. That was 2008. Again, this is quite a while ago. Hybrid systems. I worked with expert systems and machine learning for a military fire control system back in 2018. And that was in Southeast Asia for a client that actually wanted to support the observation of military activity utilizing drones, which is all the main talking point these days in a lot of AI. But that was back in 2018. We should also be aware that fire control has been automated for a long time with things like CWIS in battleships. But there's always been a human intervention point with that control, at least until you get within a certain distance of a battleship. Natural language processing, that was actually based on a case study I saw by someone else. I saw a case study in 2006 of the Verizon natural language processing system that they were using to respond to support requests. And off the back of that, I used that for a European telco company as a solution to their problem of dealing with millions of requests for support. And the last one was actually quite recent. Also, that the Rise from 2006, the LMM thing, which is what everyone's really going on about these days. I was asked to investigate them as a viable and traceable way to do biomedical science documentation in terms of clinical reporting, and that was 2024. Again, looking at how we should structure the systems in order to make sure that the LLM is not fabricating information, but is providing a filter to focus the deliverables. And that's where I came across the notion of a narrow language model, which would actually be used as a treasury index if you're going to use the thoughts around information management, or as a core index in creating reports, which is where I think a lot of the large consultancies have gone wrong. So they haven't really investigated the technology in such a way to understand how they can best deliver value to clients. Now, so that was rather long-winded. I'll try and speed up if possible. because I want to open up to questions, which I'm completely fine with having questions asked of me. I may not have the answers, and I'm completely realistic in that. The next slide is about why are we different? What makes us eminent? So we have kinds of intelligence that AI doesn't have. And this is really important because if we don't recognize what we have, we will give ourselves over to machines that will cease to recognize us as being part of the equation. The current thinking around all of this is that these systems will increase profit and they will drive out waste, which is a good intention. However, underlying that is always the sense that, in fact, they will drive out humans. And since many of these systems are designed to deliver value to humans at the end point, we have to be concerned about it. Now, if you're a machine to machine delivery system managing machines for machines' own benefits, all of this is irrelevant, and there is no human eminence except in the architecture. But the key thing is going into these points is, consciousness of subjective experience. Humans have a true awareness of what we need, and it's AI doesn't have a knowledge of experience. It has past transactions, it has a transaction capability and has future transactions, but it doesn't have a relevance or a cross index to understand the meaning as they relate to humans. We have meaning, intentionality, and meaning. We have, and I'm not going to read all the slides out because I put them up there for the purpose that you could read them. And I will make the slide pack available. I'm not going to be controlling over it. The point here is that machines don't understand human world. Why should they? It's not their world. They don't have moral judgments. The Isaac Asimov laws, or three laws, don't exist in reality. No one has applied the three laws to any of the systems. Critical systems that could cause death have a human injunction point that requires a decision before a machine can proceed. I think we're moving forward now with military equipment that could actually bypass that, which is a bit of a concern. And the whole nature of machines are that they don't really understand creativity. They don't create anything. They repackage, and they draw images from some places that they probably shouldn't have. So that's kind of an idea around the human elements. But the key points are that humans need to be involved in this discussion around our world, how it works, and what is acceptable within it. Because if we are not, it won't be acceptable, and we're going to be pushed out of it. As solutions people, as people delivering solutions into organizations, we have to think about how we are reorganizing them to function, how they will function better, but also what intrinsically is made of the humans that are in that and what is machine. And by having that understanding, we can actually elevate the unique thinkers. We can elevate the people that understand the end-to-end ecosystem. Machines don't understand it, they operate it. And that's a really important thing. And machines are not infinitely adaptable. They will adapt within their programming. Humans have the capacity to draw knowledge from multiple different areas, to understand that knowledge and to implement that knowledge into working practices and behaviors that actually make profit in a way that machines still can't. I'm not saying it will never get there, but we are a long way from it at the moment. So AI can replicate a lot of human outputs, but it doesn't possess the underlying subjective, intentional, and value forming capacities that characterize human minds. It just doesn't exist yet. Are people trying to make it? Probably. I mean, I expect there are a number of mad scientists out there trying to do this. You have to wonder why. Certainly, there is the sense that some people never want to die and they want to propagate their minds into machines. I feel like I'm in an episode of Lawnmower Man, but still, it doesn't at the moment, and we need to make some decisions around where humans should fit in the future world. And at the moment, no one seems to be really dealing with these issues. And then last, the role of AI is to recommend, prioritize, predict, and optimize. We must maintain the final authority. I saw something this week on LinkedIn that someone had posted an IBM statement from the 60s that you can't sue an AI. And I think that's an essential point. So that's as much as I'm going to share. I'm happy to respond to questions.